coming. I really appreciate it. Clutter and mental health is totally related. One does not go without having side effects of the other. I want to just tell you a little bit more about myself. I've gotten some certifications. I'm a member of the NASM, the National Association of Senior Mood Managers. So I've had some specific training in working with my population and older to help them through all this process. I'm also a certified relocation transition specialist, which means that I have the certification of helping you through that process of what to keep, even if you're not moving, what to keep, what not to keep, and why you should do both. And there's actually an institute for challenging disorganization, because some people are just disorganized. Anyway, it's part of life. I'm involved in quite a few veteran organizations. That's my passion. My husband is a retired Marine. We moved here 30 years ago as his last tour at Quantico. And so we are members of the Young Marines. My daughter, my teenage daughter, is a Young Marine. I'm a Blue Star mom. I actually helped create that organization. I was a founding member of that. A member of the Disabled American Veterans Auxiliary. I'm actually the commander for the Fredericksburg chapter, as well as a previous commander, vice commander of the Veterans of Foreign War. How does that make you feel? I'm showing you very much fun. I'm showing you real life pictures. I've had permission to show these pictures from people that we worked with. But mentally, the picture on the right speaks anxiety, maybe depression. Picture on the right, or on the left, speaks at least some organization, where you can walk in the storage unit and walk around and get to what you need to get to. Storage units are huge. They're everywhere. But this, I want to start with just an example of, this is what anxiety can feel like. And some statistics. 9.4% of the US rents a storage unit, to the tune of about $100 a month. And I've worked with people who have had them for an excess of 10 years. So do the math. That's a car, right? And 67% of those renters live in a single family home that have a garage and a basement, but still need a storage unit. We just have too much stuff. And there are 48,000 storage units in the US, and that number is probably higher, because I think that statistic is a little old, but more than McDonald's and Starbucks. And every bank is becoming a Starbucks, it seems now. So that's a real good picture of where we are as a society. Does anyone in here have a storage unit? You don't have to say yes. I know people. I actually will be working with someone next week who has 2. Both 10 by 20. Both of them could fit a car. And both of them are full. So if you think about the emotional and the mental aspect of that, if you haven't seen it in that long, does it really make sense to hold on to it? It weighs on our mind. Besides the automatic payment that's coming out every month for that storage unit, it really weighs on our mind. This is an actual garage that we just finished. Before, she had her car in there, but we had to pull everything out and put it in the middle so we could get to it. And when we finish with the picture on the right, everything is in there, nice and ordered. She has way too much stuff, I believe. But it's not my choice. That's when we're working with someone, the amount of things that you keep is all up to you. Everything is your choice. If you want to keep it, then that's fine, but you have to realize that we have to have a place to put it or somewhere to keep it in order to be able, for it to be able to stay. If not, all you're doing is reorganizing clutter. So how does clutter affect your mental health? 54% of the people who have issues with, 54% of it is your mood. If you're in a bad mood, normally it's because you have too much clutter. If you look around, I like to go to a hotel room. Because what does it have in it? Nothing. Nothing. It has just the minimum amount of things that you need. It has your coffee pot and, you know, whatever, but it has the minimum amount of things that you need. And it's that's why it's so relaxing to go stay in someone else's house as an Airbnb, because you know they have just what you need. In a hotel room, it has just what you need. Anxiety is called, 70% of the people with anxiety in the United States is because of their clutter. I just worked with someone yesterday who said, this is causing me, to use those words, this is causing so much anxiety and depression. And anxiety and depression is totally related. It's like when it's easy to block out. As you're walking, if you have too much, if you feel like you have too much clutter, it's easy to block it out because you see it every day. It's kind of like you have blinders on and you're able to just kind of look around it, because it's easier to do that than it is to think about the physical activity of what to do with it and the emotional attachment of what to do with it. 2.5 days every year are lost looking for something. Anybody have anything in particular that they look for?
And I know it's in that room.
And you know it's in there somewhere. And I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, I'm sure. You know it's in there somewhere. It's easier to go on Amazon and order a new one because it'll get there the next day, and you can wait until the next day for it to come, right? But if you only knew where it was, you'd be able to just go get it, do what you need to do, move on. And I heard somebody before we started saying, checking off that to-do list. That you're checking it off your list. You're able to check that off your list. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a minimalist. It doesn't mean that you have to have just a few of this and a few of that. If you have a big family and you need to have a service setting for 12, then you have a service setting for 12. But you know where it is. And you know where to get to it. And you know how to find everything that it is that you need to find. That's the key. How does clutter affect your mental health? You can feel totally out of control. You first wonder, how did it get this way? How did I let it get this way? And you beat yourself up. I know for a fact, I know personally, life will happen, and there's things that you cannot control. My husband had an accident right after I started my business, right after I finished the first year. 2 years, 8 surgeries, no walking. Yeah, not what we had planned. Life happens. So when that happened, the first thing that things become a priority. The first thing that became a priority was taking care of him. That was my job. I wasn't going to leave my business, and I didn't, but I just slowed it down a little bit. Then we had a granddaughter that was born that we ended up having to take care of, because our daughter went to Iraq. So all these things happened, so things got a little behind. I will totally admit things got a little bit behind, and I didn't get to things like I wanted to. I didn't get to take care of things like I wanted to right at that time, but that was a short time. It wasn't a forever. And if you remember, when I was growing up, my mom would be 86 right now. When we were growing up, every fall and every spring, everything got touched. Every drawer, every drawer got touched, every curtain came down, everything got touched, and she knew exactly where everything was. And we had a big farmhouse. I grew up on a dairy farm. Nowadays, we just don't do that. Life has gotten too crazy, things have happened, and it takes its toll. After a while, it becomes kind of a snowball effect. If you haven't gotten to it yet, and haven't seen it for a while, it's just, like I said, just easier to go buy something else. And next thing you know, you just have an accumulation of too much stuff. Difficulty to focus. I kind of attribute the ability to focus now on, we have too many other things that we can do, like play games on our phones, or email, or too many distractions on the computer, those types of things. But the ability to focus on decluttering is huge. So when we work with someone, we focus for a set amount of time. It's usually 4 hours. And about 2.5 hours in, I see this kind of glassed over look. It's like, okay, if you weren't here, I'd be done. I might have been done in an hour and a half, but that focus of knowing what it is that you're going to reach during that allotted amount of time. What is your goal every day to do something? And it doesn't have to be 4 hours like when we work with someone. It can be 15 minutes. It can be a drawer in the kitchen. It can be anything you want it to be. Just set a goal and know that today I'm going to do this. It doesn't have to be your whole closet. It can just be your shoes. The other issue that people have and problem that people have is people have trouble making the decision about whether they should keep it or not. It's hard. So, there's the whole rule of if you haven't seen it, now all of a sudden you see it and you need it. Probably not. You haven't used it in, you have to decide whether that's 6 months, whether that's a year, whether it's 5 years. You have to decide on that. But making that decision about whether to get rid of it or not, don't beat yourself up about it. And don't argue with yourself. Don't talk yourself out of getting rid of something. It's easier just to say, I'm going to get rid of this, and life will be okay. I will survive without it. I heard someone say 7 umbrellas. I had 7 umbrellas. Probably if you have one in your car, one in the hall, and one in the kitchen wherever you leave the house, that's probably all that you would need, and that would maybe be more than other people would need. So when you think about making a decision, just think logically. Don't overthink it too much. We can go into the mode of, but what if I need this? What if I really don't have, what if I don't have it in the car when I just make a decision and move forward. Use your heart will play tricks on you. Your heart, where all those emotions come in. Yesterday I just donated someone's great grandmother's little tea sets. She said, my girls don't want them. I know they meant well by giving them to me, but what am I going to do with them? I'm not going to use them. I don't have room for them in the house. The house had way too much stuff in it. She used thought with her brain versus her heart and said, let me donate this to someone who really will use them, who really needs them. And I said, great. So yesterday, the van was full of donations. I mean, completely full of donations. Think with your brain, logically, about what do I need to do with things, versus your heart saying, but I hear so many times, But I don't know, what if she comes over and she doesn't see it out? My friend, she really gave this to me. And when I have someone that I work with says, love you. You've heard of the Marie Kondo method where you kiss it goodbye. She's like, love you, bye. Love you, bye. Forgive me for I have sinned. I gave it away and I donated it to someone else. Because things were not meant to keep forever. Think with your brain versus your heart. So 54% of the people are overwhelmed with the amount of things that they have. That's half of us in the room. And I think the people that aren't overwhelmed are that generation who don't want our stuff. Because they're my kids who are in their 30s, who are like, don't want it, don't need it, don't give it to me. I can't even give my well, I could if I wanted to, but I choose not to give my daughter with 4 children anything for the kids without asking for it, or asking her first. Because with 4 kids, that's a lot of stuff. And it's like 4 times everything. And everybody thinks that because they have 4 kids, oh, they need it, let's give it to them, they'll use it. They have a big house, but it ain't that big. 78% of the people are questioning themselves about what they do with their things. Don't question yourself about whether you should or should not do something with an item. What are some of the biggest things that you guys struggle with getting rid of?
Clothes.
Clothes?
I have wonderful clothes that are they're really
High-end.
beautiful, but I wear sweatpants now and
Yeah, because we
I
change,
don't know
right?
what to do with all these clothes. They're too good for me just to throw them in a bag at Goodwill.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. There are, and that's where we have resources, especially for the good business clothes. I got rid of all my business clothes. I don't wear those anymore. This is, unless we're going out somewhere really nice, this is about as dressed up as I get. I'm mostly in jeans and a t-shirt or just a collared shirt now. I understand your pain, but it's like, what do you do with them? Because you don't want to just give them up to somebody and not know really what they're going to do with them. Find a charity, and we have a list of resources, but find a charity where someone's actually going to use them. You have a great Lions Club here in the area, in your neighborhood. I don't know that they do clothes.
They don't take clothes, no.
They don't take clothes. So I have resources for clothes.
I need resources.
Because if you can't get into your closet because you got too much stuff and you can't get them out, you're not going to wear it.
I can because I have these clothes in containers in my shed, and then I have 2 of those big boxes when you move with clothes in them. My closets look great, but
But they're not being used, right? And that brings us to why we have too much stuff, because we as a society spend $18,000 a year on non-essential items. Mainly because we can't find what we're looking for, even if it is a good deal on Amazon. So decluttering can help us save money, save anxiety, lower our feeling of overwhelm, reduce depression. It's just getting to that point of making the decision about whether you're going to do it. Anyone suffer from decluttering phobia? I'm scared too, because I'm scared about making that wrong decision, or how do I even start? It's asking yourself, well, yeah, I know I need to do this, but how do I get started? Where do I start? I will tell you the best advice I can give, because this is what I do with most people, is start at a place where you can make some easy decisions. So if clothes are not the spot where you can make easy decisions, choose a place where you can say, I know that I have too much of this. I know that I don't need this set of dishes.
Can you start in your husband's shed?
Yes, you can start in your husband's shed as long as it's okay with him. But I will tell you, once, because I've worked with a lot of couples over the years, and what normally happens is once one sees, you know, if you start, they're like, oh, well, she is getting rid of some stuff. Well, let me start. The best story that I have about husbands is I had one, and no, there's only one gentleman in the room, but I had one person who, he sat and looked out the window, refused to acknowledge that I was even there, because he didn't understand why she needed help. She was a nurse, so she worked 2 days, 18 hours, then off 2 days, and then back to work for 18 hours for 2 days. She was exhausted by the time she got home after work, you know, getting very little sleep. And he didn't understand why she needed help. So she asked me to come. We started the whole process. By day number 2, we were moving the refrigerator. Because we are not your typical organizers. We're like, let's make this space, figure out how to make it functional for you, not just pretty. Pretty in a magazine is one thing, but functional is totally different. We need to take the refrigerator out of the kitchen, put it in the garage, and bring the one from the garage into the kitchen. He goes, I'll help. All of a sudden, he's like, I can help you do that. And we would have totally figured it out by ourselves. But then he was like, okay, I see what's happening. She just needed a little help.
Well, I have missed my late husband terribly, but I was really glad that he wasn't alive when I was getting rid of all this.
There can be some advantages.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've worked with so many people throughout the years. Some people are very, as soon as they lose someone, they're able to make that decision because now they can make that decision. For other people, it's years down the road. We lost Mom, it'll be 2 years in August, and Dad still is like, okay, I need to. It's Dad, no, you don't. As soon as he starts crying, he's like, but I remember her in this. I was, stop. We're not getting rid of it.
Yeah.
We're not getting, but I need to. No, you don't. If you want to get rid of some of your stuff and donate them to the church because they are having a clothing drive and they're helping some homeless people, if you want to do that, that's fine. But you do not have to get rid of Mom's stuff. I'll deal with that after you're not here anymore. It's like, okay. Because you know, it has to be, that is a heart thing.
Yeah.
That is a total heart thing. That's not a brain thing. That's a heart thing. You have to listen to your heart and know when you're going to be ready. Perfect example of a daily client, a daily family. We sing that song, Let It Go from Frozen. So much. Frozen is the best movie ever. Let it go. So what we do is we help you take those items away. We don't depend on, we don't ask you to do it yourself, because that's a whole other piece of decluttering. The mental part of getting it in a bag and by the front door or by the steps is one piece of it. Getting it into the car and to wherever you're going to donate are 2 additional steps. Getting it to the car can sit there for weeks, who knows how long, right? We help you through that process. We have people, like I said, we have local charities that we donate to who help. They aren't in Orange County, they're in Spotsylvania County because that's where I'm from, but they help people. They help
And
people.
they come
better.
to your home and help you?
Do they come to your home?
Uh-huh.
They actually have a truck. We have driven their truck through neighborhoods where people they sign up and say, hey, I have stuff to donate, this is what I have, and we make a route through the neighborhood, and we drive the truck around and we pick up things. Now, y'all have the Lions Club who will pick up for free. I think you just have to contact them, and I don't know if they come into your home yet.
Yes,
They do.
will.
Yes, but they
will.
pick up and you also can take it and drop it
Yes.
off.
Yeah, so
And I've done that several times.
Your neighborhood is very fortunate that you have that to help you. Not every neighborhood has a Lions Club as good as yours. Our brains like order, and constant visual reminders of disorganization drain our cognitive sources, reducing our ability to focus. All of these books were lined up in a garage. He hadn't touched any of them for years. They were 40, 50 years old. No idea why he had kept them. But boy, did it make a difference in that garage. They were getting ready to sell their house. So one of the things that we did was we came in and helped him get rid of all that. But you can see that just makes you feel anxious and overwhelmed and a little depressed. That's why I like what I do, because like, it's freeing for me, because I'm like, woo, you can let this go, and we get to develop a relationship, and it's really freeing. I get to do that 5 days a week. A chronically decluttered home environment can lead to constant low-grade fight or flight, taxing our resources designed for survival. Fight or flight. If I don't get it done, what's going to happen? But if I do, I don't have the energy to do it. I don't have the passion, I don't have the drive to do it today. I don't feel like doing it today. That feeling, now is a perfect time. This weather is fantastic. This is the best weather to get out there and start doing all kinds of decluttering. How does that make you feel?
Visual pollution.
Well, we have to make room to get a headboard out of that back corner against the wall. And we did. We got it out. But can you imagine sitting around that and having to look at all of it all the time while you're trying to work? This is probably way more extreme than most. But I just wanted, that's the kind of, it plays on our psyche, our mental. So, one of the reasons I heard somebody say is like a little bit of shopping, not shopping online or wherever, but why do we buy? 64% because you want it. It's that self-satisfaction of, I got something new. It just makes you feel good when you have something new. And that's fine, just take 2 things out when you bring one thing in. And you're all shaking your heads, yes, you know that. 59% is because it's convenient. I have a love-hate relationship with Amazon. It is super convenient, and I'm not a shopper, so going out into a store to spend the time to look for something is not what I want to spend my time doing. So Amazon is great, but I cannot tell you how many Amazon boxes I recycle every day. Because if you get through the boxes, it's like, wow, there's not as much here as I thought. I was just saving the boxes for whatever reason. And 52% shop because it makes them feel good.
I have a problem saving boxes. It's such a good box.
And you'll find a purpose. And you know what? If you're going to keep it, give yourself a goal that within 72 hours, you fill it with something that you're going to donate. And then call the Lions or go down to the Lions and drop it off. If you order something big, then you make some real good progress. Fill that box with things that you don't need anymore. And 40% is because it was on sale. The phrase I've been saying for years is Kohl's will have their next biggest sale of the season next weekend. Because it's like, oh, it's 40% off. No, it's not. It's really not. Because it was on sale. And, so the other thing with that is if you're shopping in the Costco or BJ's or the bulk stores, it's not necessarily cheaper to buy things in bulk if you do the math. And if you do you really have room to store it? That's where a lot of the clutter can come in, because you buy a little bit extra, I'll just get these now, and then you don't have room to store it. So you're walking around it, tripping over it, or trying to figure out where to put it. The benefits of decluttering your home: it supports mental health and clarity. Reduces the risk of injury. That's a big one.
Yes.
That's a big one. Well, when I go to New Jersey every month to help my dad with some things, and he fell. He tripped over a cord and he fell and hit a marble top table and chopped his head. We wound up going to not to the emergency room, but to the urgent care. But anyway, it is a huge risk of having too much clutter, is risk of injury. It increases the value of your home. And if you ever are getting, if you ever do decide to sell your home, it's easier to do it now in phases than it is to say, oh, I want to put the house on the market in 2 months and then try to get it all done at one time, because your friends and your family may come and help, but they may not. And they say, I don't have time, I'm too busy. It reduces the risk of mold, pests, and other health hazards.
My son says it's liberating.
It is very liberating. I get liberated every day. It's just very freeing letting it go. It's like you lose weight. I never noticed it in any other way besides, taking the bags to be donated, but it's like you lose weight when you declutter. It's just very freeing and it gives you happy thoughts. 8 ways to declutter your mind. Accept what is. Accept what you have. Accept things the way they are. Be kind to yourself. Do not beat yourself up because you have too much stuff. That's just playing on your own mind. Release your guilt and fears. Don't feel guilty about getting rid of something that someone gave you because they were a special friend. And don't be fearful that they'll find out. You can always blame, if you're working with someone, always blame your friend. You can always blame the organizer, you can always blame someone else. Let go of control. A lot of times, my experience has been people who have the kind of an over-compulsive OCD personality. One thing gets out of whack, one thing happens in their life, they can easily become cluttered because they can't control it. So don't let go of control. Visualize what's important, because a lot of things just aren't important. Focus on your energy. Clutter sucks the energy out of us. It's just very draining. Find what doesn't serve or interest you and let it go. So that's what I have. I hope that it's been helpful. I hope that you're just energized to go home and say, I'm going to clear out my t-shirt drawer or my sock drawer, or something every day. And just let it go. Think about because really, it's like dishes and laundry are the same thing to me. You wash it, you dry it, you put it away, you reuse it. Right? And if you have too much of it, it piles up. And you don't get a chance to get to it. So does anybody have any questions? Hopefully your mind's a little bit clearer and not, too much more overwhelmed. Yes?
Can you give us an idea how you work and how much you charge and that kind of stuff?
Sure. Well, you do a free consultation where I just come in and say, and just take a peek at, this is what the issues are, this is what your goals are. And from then, we can figure out how we could work together, and I'll give you suggestions right then as to what I would think would be the next steps. And we charge by the hour, and you work in 4-hour sessions, and the rates depend on how much services you need. The hauling things away, if you don't use the Lions Club, hauling things away is part of the service, so you don't have to pay for that. But it depends on the situation. It usually starts at $50 an hour, but depending on how, what the situation is, it goes up from there. And sometimes we can get more done when we have 2 people, because I have a team. So if we have 2 people come in, one's helping haul things out and bagging things up, while the other one's helping you go through things. You'd be surprised what you can get done in a 4-hour session, because our goal is to have visible results at the end of that time together.
My sister lives in Texas and was caretaker for our mother for several years. And after Mom died, she had someone who does what you do come and help her. And the worst picture that you had up there, that with the headboard in the back, that's kind of what the house looked like. And
That's just one room in that house.
yeah, that, exactly. But unfortunately, it hit just about the middle of 2020 when it was during COVID. So they got started. But then every week the consultant would come and give my sister a list of things to do. And my sister would do it and then put stuff outside, and the lady would come pick it up and haul it away.
Okay,
So that
yeah.
they didn't have to get too close to each other.
Well,
And
someone
that was a lifesaver.
Yeah, it was, I think Emily asked me how busy we are, and honest to goodness, since, if I have to go back to right before COVID hit, 1 month we were slow. That's it. Because everybody's stuck in their house, looking at all the stuff, instead of going out and being able to be social and do things. It was awesome for me. It's just, I hate to say it. We just, we wore the masks and practiced safe distancing and all that. And I had some people that would call and cancel and say, hey, I'm not feeling good, or I'm not comfortable having you in the house at all. So, yeah, it's good, you know. People are in that decluttering mode because the depression, once that kicks in, that's hard to fight. It's hard to come back from. So it's nice to get, meet with people before that gets too bad. But it's great for your mental health.
Yeah.
And my sister lost her house to hoarding. Yeah, in New Jersey.
That's what I was going to address is, where do you draw the line if a family member asks you to come in and look at another family member's situation and that's a hoarding situation?
The only way that will even begin to work is if the family member who lives in the house is on board.
Yeah.
If the sister wants me to come in and work on the mom's house, I will not do it. It's kind of like having a power of attorney for someone. It's their life. Just because you want it done for them doesn't mean that they want it done, and it's a waste of money and time. If they're ready for it, absolutely, then we can work with them. But our client, that's where our association with NASM and all that's where all that training comes in, because that mom is the client,
Right.
not the daughter.
And it's her stuff.
And it's her stuff, and we will never, ever make you get rid of anything that you don't want to get rid of. But by the same token, we want you to make progress. I don't want you to pay for something and not see progress, and not just reorganize, or not just shift things around. You want to see progress and see things move, and see things leave and make decisions. And sometimes it takes a while to have that happen. You might not be able to release all your gowns, all your ball gowns or your fancy dresses right now. But if we work together for a while, you might say, okay, yeah, I'll just keep 2 of them. You can take the rest, Linda, and we'll find a good home for them. We'll find a place to donate them. But it definitely is that person who's in charge. And I've worked with someone for quite a long time now, and every week, and gradually she's getting rid of more and more things.
Well, my children did it for me, and they were very kind about it, but it did reach the place where every time I would go, I would cry the whole time. And my son came to me, walked me out to the car, and he said, "This is your last trip."
Wow.
And I wanted to kick his butt, but I didn't go back because he was right. So that's why my spare room is full of boxes, because they kept a lot of stuff.
And it's hard, it's hard too to have family members who they've collected things, and you want to remember them by holding on to their things.
And I was in that house for 40 years.
Yes, A lot of the people we work with, I've been in my house for 30. A lot of the people we work with have been in their homes 25 to 50 years. And it's hard. And the thing is, the kids don't want to have the time or the energy to go ahead and take care of that when they aren't there anymore. When their parents aren't there anymore. So the kids are just as concerned about it. My daughter's already told me, Mom, you better not. It's like, well, no, we won't. She's because, she has 4 kids. She lives 10 miles away. Of course, she's going to be the one we call on. Or my son. But, yeah, it's hard. It's
Do
hard.
you have children?
Anybody else have any struggles? Oh, Emily.
I was just wondering how you advise people with their pictures.
With your,
Oftentimes they have albums and albums of pictures.
Mhm.
They have slides too, things like that. But
Yeah.
I'm just talking about,
Just
what do
those-
you do with pictures? I've talked to people that have moved and they've just kept an 8x10, a few 8x10s. But
Yep.
I just wondered what your advice was in that regard.
a lot of times we'll recommend them to take pictures of the picture and put it on the cloud so that they can share that memory with the family all over the United States if they want to. Most times, if you're going back in pictures that are 25 and 30 years old or more, there's duplicates. So that a whole photo organizing is a whole industry in itself.
Yeah.
There's a professional organization of photo organizers. That's how big it
It's
is.
so difficult to see it when you go into if you're antiquing or when you're walking along and you go in these shops and you see pictures and nobody knows who the pictures are,
Yeah.
who they belong to.
And that's the thing, before Mom's dementia got too bad, she could remember things that were 30 and 40 years and 50 years ago. So we went through all the pictures. That was one of the activities we did. We pulled out all the pictures and said, Mom, who's this? And she could tell us, and we wrote it on the back. Who's this? And then after she was gone, we could decide, okay, what we did was, all my cousin and his kids' pictures went to him. And all this family's pictures went to them. And we put them all in an envelope and said, here's your family pictures, and then they get to decide what they're going to do with them. But even with my kids, I had, when they're in school and you get the 8x10s, because everybody has to have the pictures, we took them all and put one on top of the other, and kept them in one frame. And then it's like, here you go. Here you are from kindergarten through senior year. Because we didn't, you always get a ton more than you need.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the pictures can be hard, and that's where it's being able to make a decision quickly. A lot of times people will ask, well, how long does this whole process take? And a lot of it is depending on how many stories you have that go along with, like, oh, so-and-so gave me this, oh my God, there's a story and they want me to hear the story. That's fine, but that kind of slows us down the process. Pictures are the same way, even worse. Oh, I remember. Yes, ma'am.
Taking pictures helps you be able to let go of things that ordinarily you wouldn't, because then you still got a memory.
Yes.
But you don't have the thing.
Right, because you don't have to keep the physical thing. Yeah, absolutely. And they have digital frames now that you can put them all on. Yeah, so there's lots of different options. And the reels and things, the VHS tape, those kind of things, you can send them off and put them on a CD now or put them on the cloud. So there's lots of different options for that now. But anybody have anything that they're struggling with? Yes.
This isn't a struggle, but it's something that I do not often enough, but sometimes to help motivate me to start organizing things, decluttering, because I get to the place where I don't notice the clutter around me. Is I'll take a picture of it and go away and then come back and look at the picture, and I see all these different things sitting around.
That you're physically don't see.
Right,
Yep.
right. And
Yeah.
that helps me to say, oh, okay, I see that now.
Because in your mind, you see just that one thing on the table.
Yeah,
You don't see all the things around it. You don't see the papers around it and the mail around it or whatever else is around it.
yeah.
But when you look at that picture,
And
you
all
see
the
it all.
stacks, Yeah,
kind of like, oh yeah, take your, oh wow, look what was going on in the background. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
And you don't look at it right away, you have to go away and then come back and look at the picture.
I was at a friend's house and
They're having shredding event here at the lake.
Yes.
On the 22nd.
Yes, yes, Pat is having one over at the
full of
food.
papers in the middle of the floor. I should take a picture of that, see if I make progress.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally use Pat's shred event. I
Yeah.
usually don't find out about them until it's right at the deadline, so I was glad I was gonna mention that.
Yeah, I'm putting things in boxes now to take over there.
Yeah, because I asked her, so is there a limit? Because a lot of times they're like 2 boxes or whatever. I would get there early. Because from what I understand, she has 2 trucks coming. She had 1 truck last year, this year there's 2 trucks.
Okay.
Because there was so much demand. Because once the trucks get full, they can't take anymore.
I actually did it one time before I moved here. I didn't realize I was going to be needing to downsize everything like I did. But then I got sick and moved here. And it's unbelievable how much junk you save. And the one thing that my children, when they were packing everything up, they got really upset with me. They said, Mom, we just need to throw all these old Christmas cards away. I said, no, because they have addresses on them. And I don't have them on my computer. So I've been going through that. That's been a year's work.
That's a project, isn't it?
Yes.
Everything
And
is a project.
I throw it away after I get the address
Oh, good.
if I don't have it on there. But they listened to me about a lot of things.
That's
I'm sure
good.
that there was things that got thrown away.
Yeah,
but-
things that they kind of slid. That's the one thing we can never do. Because if someone asks me what happened to this glass bowl, I can't lie to them. And then that breaks the trust completely. I am not, if they don't want to get rid of it, it is quite all right. It's quite all right. Yes.
did you get your question answered?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
No, I was at a friend's house and she has a lot of stuff. And so her daughter said to her, Mom, I threw something away. And if you can look around and tell me what's missing, I'll give it back to you.
So how'd that go?
She had no idea what. Yeah. So it got tossed.
Did you, Judy?
I've got a table that has 1 drawer in it that belonged to my mother's grandmother.
Okay.
And
So 3 generations back.
yes, yes. And I don't know what to do with it. The drawer is full of old monogrammed spoons and stuff. Silverware of different,
Is it real silver?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I haven't looked at it closely, but I
I would, when you have that kind of memory, I would first ask if there's anybody in the family who wants it, because then you don't feel quite as guilty passing it along to someone, and then you have to be okay with whatever it is that they do with it. You know, you don't get to judge them, because if they decide to get rid of it, which they probably would hold on to it for a while, and then, and then make their decision.
And then there's the cedar chest. How many cedar chests?
I have one here. I have one. And my learning experience with the cedar chest was, we had someone in Remington we were working with, and I had an antique dealer come in, and they had a tall chest, a tall wardrobe, and then a chest. And he said, $75, $75. I know they paid hundreds and hundreds for it, but 75 and 75 would probably be the most they would get for it. What did have value was the tin of buttons. People collect buttons. But he said the cedar chest, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have blankets in mine like people normally do. Because we just went through it over the weekend. My husband was like, oh, nah, don't need it. So a bag or 2 of blankets, because blankets take up a lot of room. And we were moving it. That was a lot of weight in that cedar chest. So, yeah.
And I think that's a real challenge sometimes, just getting your head around the fact that you have something that in your mind should have a a fairly good monetary value.
Yes.
And it doesn't, and so it's like you can't get rid of it because you feel like you're cheating yourself.
Yes.
By letting it go. This is an antique, this has to be worth something. China, you know, this is China, you know,
Yes.
how can it be worth nothing?
And that's the thing, you know, if, it's worth something if you find someone who's willing to pay you that for it.
Right.
And that's the only real value that it has. If someone is willing to pay you $100 for that plate because it's special to them, then yes. But the odds of that happening are not really good.
I've had things on Marketplace for over a year,
Mhm.
ready to just, delete it, and then boom, somebody will come along and it's the perfect, whatever it was, so it's.
Mhm. Well, I have someone that I've worked with or I've known for quite a while, and she was gonna sell things on eBay. And a lot of stuff, she would go out and buy it really cheap, and gonna sell it on eBay. And we had to have that, we had a hard conversation about, okay, so if you're gonna sell this on eBay, let's figure out your time. What's involved in doing that? You have to take a good picture, come up with a description, post it on eBay, follow all their rules, whatever that is, follow up to see who's bidding, right, because you know how all that works. Then, how much is it gonna cost you to ship it if they aren't local? Putting it in the mail, all that. So we figured out that she needed to make $12.50 on everything that she sold in order for it to be worth her dollar amount per hour that she valued herself at. So that was a big reality of, well, this is a couple Pez dispensers. You know, because people do collect them.
Yeah.
But it didn't make sense for them to take up valuable real estate in the home when that real estate, that room could be used for other things. You know, so I'm not at the, I don't push people to say, yes, you have to let it go. If you want to hold on to it, you can. But you have to realize how much real estate that does take up in your home. Even if it's just a dresser, what else could you use that for? And if you don't go in it for years and years and maybe decades or more, does it really make sense to hold on to it?
And
What's it gonna smell like when you open it?
Yes. Yes. They may have an odor. Yes.
What do you do about things that might have historical value? I have a friend whose great something was Abraham Lincoln's valet in the White House, and she's got a bunch of things that were his uniform and that kind of stuff.
Well, I worked with someone who had, their uncle was a doctor in World War II, and they had his doctor bag. He was a gynecologist, believe it or not, in World War II. Let's just say that doctor's bag was full of all kinds of things that you wouldn't think they needed in a war. So they contacted the Museum of the Army and donated all to them. I have someone I've worked with who has a ton of Fredericksburg memorabilia and history. So we contacted the museum in Fredericksburg. Museums love that kind of stuff.
My husband was a Marine.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. And when he died, my son-in-law contacted the Museum of the Marine Corps. And they sent two curators out. And they were delighted. They took a lot of his uniforms,
Oh, good.
just all kinds of things.
So they're in the museum now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have a list of, they sent me a
Oh.
list, they did a research and everything.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
So, yeah.
And that took them out of your closet.
Yes.
They did.
And they're
there
being
was
valued.
Yeah,
Because we go to the museum all the time.
yeah. There was one picture that I realized they took, and I ran out there and I said, I need that picture back. Oh, yeah, sure, you know. So, yeah.
They were like.
Yeah, so.
Awesome. Well, does anybody else have any questions or anything? Was this helpful?
Yes.
Very helpful.
Okay,
I do
good.
have one question.
Yes.
Motivation.
You will come in and say, because right now I have things
on top shelves that I can no longer get myself
Yeah,
down because I get dizzy on the steps.
Yes.
You would do all that.
Yes, it's amazing, the list of things that we do is, well expands what you could imagine. I just had someone in Lake contact me yesterday who said, the neighbors selling their house across the street, and I have stuff that I want to bring from the neighbor's house to my house. Do you have two people that can help? I was like, no. Well, we help people in all kinds of situations and
Right.
things. So, yeah,
And no matter what one has, you
Yeah.
will try to dispose of it.
yes,
It
yes,
could be anything from China to wigs,
yes.
hats, and
Yes, I'm trying to think of something we haven't donated. Furs that were been in the garage for 20 years, they aren't, but somebody will use them. And one of the places that we donate to, they will recycle it and send it to a third world country who will make use of it in another
that's
way.
nice.
So, yeah, we try to
Especially
recycle.
blankets and things like that.
Yes, blankets and clothes that have holes in them, they'll take all those things.
Well,
And
my
and
daughter
sometimes
does.
old clothes and things like that, especially nice things, some of the theater groups will take them.
Yes, yes. I have, my daughter, my teenager is in a homeschool group with a home theater. A lot of the kids are in a theater group. And Stephanie said, anything that you get that the kids can use for any of these plays, because I just did Frozen 2. She said, let us know. I said, well, you might not have a warehouse big enough. I'm not sure, but, and I have a sheet here, if you'd like more information, just write down your name and your email or your phone number. And we are having a seminar on estate sales next month, on May 11th at Jubilation in Central Park. So if you might be interested in hearing about that, how that works, we need to just have a reservation, but I can contact you about that.
A jubilation.
So,
Are there any lists on your list for women like that are wanting to go to work? I think there's an organization or a donation spot in Warrenton called Helping Hands. Are you familiar with that?
no, I don't really go to the Warrenton area.
So,
I donate to Provisions they have 2 locations, one in Lake Anna and one on Route 1 by Massaponax. And even if things aren't usable for them, they have someone who comes and picks them up and hauls them off and takes them to other places that can use those things. And she has a blessings bin out front where everything's free. For her even, families can come and get a bag of clothes for free every month per child. So she really helps the community and people that don't have, and her prices are really good. It's even, I hate to say it, but even Goodwill and the other places, their prices have gone up. And I don't know about the Lions Club, but what we found is a lot of places won't take things unless they're in mint condition anymore.
Right.
They don't want scratches, they don't want dings and things that people have to pick up or fix up. So, okay. Well, I hope that was helpful, and thank you very much for letting me come out.